The grand chamber was silent. Ambassador Hyun stood in the center of the massive room, surrounded by representatives from 47 alien civilizations. Above him, the dome showed the stars, thousands of worlds that humans could see but never touch. He had given this speech 3 times before. Each time he hoped for a different answer. Earth requests full membership in the Galactic Council, Hyun said. His voice echoed in the chamber. We have followed every rule. We have paid every tribute. We have proven ourselves peaceful neighbors for 150 years. High Arbiter Veloth looked down at him from the raised platform. The alien's face showed nothing that Hyun could read as emotion. Veloth's species had controlled the council for thousands of years. They decided who was worthy and who was not. Your request is denied, Veloth said. The words were simple and final. Humanity remains on probation. You are too violent, too unpredictable. Perhaps in another century we will reconsider. Hyun felt the familiar weight of defeat. Another century? They always said another century. He bowed his head and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the council moved on to other business as if Earth didn't matter at all. Outside, his assistant was waiting. She looked at his face and knew the answer before he spoke. They said no again, she said. It wasn't a question. They always say no, Hyun replied. He was tired, so very tired. 50 years he had served as Earth's ambassador. 50 years of bowing and smiling, and asking politely for rights that should have been given freely. The restrictions were crushing. Humans could not leave their solar system. They could not build certain types of ships. They could not develop advanced weapons. Every year, Earth paid massive taxes to the Council. In return, they got nothing but promises that someday, maybe, they would be treated as equals. Hyun returned to Earth 3 days later. He went directly to the military headquarters in Geneva. Commander Daeho was waiting for him in a private office. The commander was younger than Hyun, but his eyes looked much older. They refused again, Hyun said as he sat down. Daeho nodded slowly. I know, we were listening to the transmission. What now? Hyun asked. Do we wait another 100 years? Do we keep begging? Daeho stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city stretched for miles. 12 billion humans lived on Earth. Millions more lived on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, all of them trapped in one small corner of space. There is something I need to show you, he said. They took a shuttle to a military base in orbit. From there, they boarded a fast ship that accelerated out past Mars, past Jupiter, toward the outer edges of the solar system. Hyun had never been this far from home. Where are we going? He asked. To see what we've been building. Daeho replied. Beyond Neptune, hidden in the darkness of the Kuiper Belt, Hyun saw something impossible. Ships. Hundreds of them. Some were small and fast, designed for combat. Others were massive, bristling with weapons he didn't recognize. They floated in the void, dark and silent, waiting. How? Hyun whispered. The council monitors everything. How did you hide this? We've been building for 70 years, Daeho said. Every mining operation, every research station, half of them were covers. The council thinks we're primitive. They think we're weak. We let them think that. Hyun stared at the fleet. He felt sick. This is a violation of every treaty. If they find out, what will they do? Daeho asked. Punish us? They already treat us like children. Tax us? They already take half of everything we produce. No, Ambassador. We tried peace. We bent over backward for peace. But peace only works when both sides want it. They returned to Earth in silence. Hyun didn't know what to think anymore. He had dedicated his life to diplomacy. Now he learned that while he was begging for scraps, his own government was preparing for war. 2 weeks later, everything changed. A council enforcement fleet arrived at Jupiter. They came to collect the yearly tribute, food, resources, technology. But a solar storm delayed the transport ships. The council commander grew impatient. Your delay is unacceptable, the commander transmitted to the mining station orbiting Ganymede. You have 1 hour to deliver the tribute, the station manager tried to explain. The storm would pass in 6 hours. The ships were ready. They just needed to wait for safe conditions. The council commander didn't care. He opened fire. The mining station had no weapons. No shields. 3,000 people worked there, miners, engineers, families. The council's plasma weapons tore through the station's hull like paper. The atmosphere vented into space. People died screaming, frozen, suffocating. The attack lasted 3 minutes. When it was over, the station was a broken shell drifting in Ganymede's orbit. Rescue ships from Europa arrived too late. They found only bodies. News reached Earth within hours. The planet erupted in rage. People flooded the streets demanding action. But what could Earth do? They had no weapons, no military, no way to fight back. That's what everyone thought. Hyun was in the council chamber when Earth's response arrived. He hadn't sent it. He hadn't even known it was coming. The message broadcast across every council channel, impossible to block or ignore. The screen showed Commander Daeho. Behind him, Hyun could see the command center of a warship. A human warship that shouldn't exist. To the Galactic Council, Daeho said. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. You murdered 3,000 of our people. You claim it was enforcement. We call it what it is, murder. For 150 years, we have followed your rules. We have paid your taxes. We have begged for your acceptance. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. The time for begging is over. The time for tribute is over. We tried peace. We wanted peace, but you mistook our patience for weakness. You thought we were helpless. You were wrong. The image changed. It showed the hidden fleet beyond Neptune. Hundreds of warships now visible for all to see. This is your only warning, Daeho continued. Leave our space. Do not return. Do not threaten us again. We do not want war. But if you force us to fight, you will learn what humanity becomes when all other options are gone. The transmission ended. High Arbiter Veloth stared at the blank screen. Then he began to laugh. Other council members joined in. Humans in their primitive ships threatening the council? It was absurd. Send the war fleet, Veloth ordered. 200 ships should be more than enough. Destroy their hidden vessels. Teach them what happens when lesser species forget their place. Hyun watched the council make their decision. He said nothing. There was nothing left to say. He had spent 50 years trying to prevent this moment. Now it had come anyway. He left the chamber and sent a message to Earth. Just 3 words. They are coming. The response came from Daeho immediately. We are ready. The council had made their choice. They chose to ignore the warning. They chose to see humanity's restraint as submission. They chose to believe their own superiority. They would learn the truth soon enough. Humanity had tried peace. They had begged for peace. They had sacrificed for peace. But when peace was denied, when their people were murdered, when war was forced upon them, humans became something the galaxy had never seen before. They became unchained. The Council's war fleet moved through space like a swarm of metal insects. 200 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could absorb the power of a star. They had crushed rebellions before. This would be no different. Admiral Gina watched them come. She sat in the command center of the Solar Defense Station, hidden on the dark side of Neptune. Screens showed her every detail of the approaching fleet. She had studied these ships for 30 years. She knew their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. They will reach the outer markers in 6 hours, her tactical officer reported. Good, Gina said. Begin Phase 1. The Council fleet commander was named Thoran. He had fought in 20 campaigns. He had destroyed pirates, rebels, and upstart colonies. This mission would be easy. Humans had no real military. Their hidden fleet was probably mining ships with guns welded to the sides. His sensors detected nothing. The space ahead was empty, dark, and cold. Exactly as expected. Then the first asteroid hit. It came from the Kuiper Belt, accelerated to a fraction of light speed. The Council ship never saw it. One moment the vessel was there, shields active and weapons ready. The next moment it was debris. The asteroid had punched straight through the shields as if they didn't exist. Thorin stared at his screens. What was that? His sensor officer was already working. A projectile. Solid matter. Moving at 0.2 light speed. It came from 3 more impacts. 3 more ships turned into wreckage. The Council shields were designed for energy weapons. Plasma, lasers, particle beams, they could stop all of that. But solid matter moving that fast? The shields might as well have been paper. Return fire, Thorin ordered. Target their launch points. But there was nothing to target. The humans had used magnetic accelerators hidden throughout the Kuiper Belt. By the time the Council detected the launch, the rocks were already moving too fast to stop. And the launchers themselves were silent, hidden among thousands of other asteroids. 10 more ships died. Then 5 more. The Council fleet broke formation, trying to spread out, trying to make themselves harder to hit. It didn't help. Then the human fighters appeared. They came from everywhere at once. Small ships, fast and agile. They didn't have the heavy armor of Council vessels. They didn't need it. They were too quick to be caught. Captain Minji led the first squadron. Her ship, the Retribution, dove through the Council formation like a hawk among pigeons. Her weapons were simple. Missiles with chemical explosives, nothing fancy. But she didn't need fancy. She just needed to be faster than they could track. Target the engine clusters, she ordered her squadron. Disable, do not destroy. I want them to go home and tell everyone what happened here. The Council ships tried to respond. Their plasma cannons fired, but the human fighters were already gone, using the gravity of Neptune to slingshot around the planet at impossible angles. Their AI targeting systems could not predict human piloting. Humans did not follow algorithms. They improvised. Minji brought her ship around Saturn using the rings as cover. 3 Council ships followed her. She waited until they were committed to their pursuit, then fired her main engines and dove toward the planet's surface. The Council ships followed, right into Saturn's gravity well. They realized their mistake too late. Their massive ships could not pull out of the dive. 2 crashed into the upper atmosphere and burned. The third managed to escape but was crippled, limping away with half its systems dead. Thorin watched his fleet die. In less than an hour he had lost 60 ships, 60, and the humans had not even used their main fleet yet. Those hundreds of warships Deho had shown, they were still waiting, hiding, watching. Retreat, he ordered. The word tasted like poison. All ships retreat to the outer system. But the humans were not done. As the Council fleet turned to run, Engineer Tajin activated his surprise. Every Council ship suddenly went dark. Their power systems failed. Their weapons died. Their shields collapsed. They drifted in space, helpless electromagnetic pulse weapons. The Council had banned them centuries ago as too primitive, too crude. But crude did not mean ineffective. Tajin had built them into satellites scattered throughout the outer system. When he activated them, every Council ship within range simply stopped working. The effect was temporary. Power would return in an hour. But for that hour, the Council fleet was completely vulnerable. The humans could have destroyed every ship. Instead, they just watched. They let the Council crews sit in the darkness, knowing they were alive only because humans chose to let them live. When the ship's power returned, they ran. No formation, no tactics, just pure flight. Of the 200 ships that had entered the solar system, only 93 escaped. The rest were destroyed or too damaged to move. Admiral Gina sent a message to the retreating fleet. Tell your High Arbiter this was mercy. Tell him we could have killed you all. Tell him we chose not to. And tell him if he sends another fleet, we will not be so kind. On Earth, people watched the battle on their screens. They had feared the Council for so long. Now they saw the truth. The Council was not invincible. The Council could bleed. Celebrations erupted in every city. People danced in the streets. They sang, they cried. For the first time in 150 years, humans felt free. But Commander Deho did not celebrate. He stood in the command center watching the tactical displays. The battle was won, but the war had just begun. They will come back, he said to Gina. And next time they will bring everything they have. Let them, Gina replied. We spent 150 years preparing for this. We studied every battle they ever fought. We analyzed every tactic they ever used. We built our defenses around their weaknesses. They think they know us, but they do not. They know now, Deho said. The question is whether they will believe it. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. The Council tried to control the information, but they could not. Too many ships had escaped. Too many survivors told the story. Humans, the weak, primitive, restricted humans, had defeated a Council fleet. Other species began to whisper. If humans could fight back, maybe they could too. If the Council could be defeated, maybe they were not as powerful as everyone thought. High Arbiter Veloth received the reports in silence. He read about the kinetic weapons, the fighter tactics, the electromagnetic pulses. He read about his fleet's humiliation. His hands shook with rage. They dare, he whispered. They dare to strike at us. His advisors tried to counsel restraint. Perhaps diplomacy could still work. Perhaps they could negotiate. Veloth silenced them with a gesture. No, no more talking. No more negotiations. Humans have forgotten their place. We will remind them. Assemble the Grand Armada, every ship we have, every weapon, every soldier. We will crush them so completely that no species will ever dare challenge us again. The order went out across Council space. 2,000 ships began gathering at the rally point. It would take months to assemble such a force. But when it came, it would be unstoppable. At least that was what Veloth believed. He did not know that humans were watching. He did not know they had spies in Council space, hidden agents who had been placed decades ago. He did not know that every move the Council made, humans saw it. And he definitely did not know that humans were not planning to wait for the Armada to arrive. They had learned an important lesson. The best defense was a strong offense. The Council's Grand Armada gathered above the planet Korath Prime. 2,000 warships filled the orbital space like stars in the night sky. It was the largest fleet ever assembled. Every Council species had contributed ships, weapons, and soldiers. This was not just about punishing humanity anymore. This was about proving that the Council's authority could not be challenged. High Arbiter Veloth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. Through the view screen, he could see hundreds of vessels stretching into the distance. Cruisers, battleships, carriers, each one powerful enough to destroy a city. Together they could burn worlds. We will not make the same mistakes, Veloth announced to his commanders. The humans use tricks and ambushes. They hide in shadows. But there is no shadow large enough to hide from this fleet. We will arrive at Earth with overwhelming force. We will destroy their hidden bases. We will break their spirit. And we will remind the galaxy why the Council rules. The commanders cheered. The plan was simple. Travel to Earth's solar system, eliminate all human military assets, and force complete surrender. Any resistance would be met with total destruction. The Council would show mercy only after humans begged for it. But as the Armada prepared to depart, something strange happened. Council supply stations in 3 different systems went offline. At first, Veloth thought it was a communications error. Then the reports came in. The stations had been attacked, destroyed by human ships. Impossible, Veloth said. Humans cannot travel faster than light. They are confined to their system. His intelligence officer looked uncomfortable. The evidence says otherwise. Multiple witnesses report seeing human vessels using jump drives. They struck our facilities and disappeared before our defense forces could respond. Veloth felt a cold feeling in his chest. Humans with faster-than-light travel meant they were no longer trapped. They could strike anywhere. They could run if they needed to. The war had changed. Admiral Gina watched the Council Armada through her spy satellites. 2,000 ships. It was impressive. It was also exactly what she had expected. Humans had been planning for this moment for decades. Every scenario had been run through simulation. Every possibility had been considered. Operation Breakout was working perfectly. Human ships equipped with experimental jump drives had left the solar system for the first time. Their targets were not military, they were symbolic. Supply depots, administrative centers, automated mines, places that were poorly defended but important to Council operations. The message was clear. Humanity could reach any Council world. No place was safe. They are coming, Commander Deho said, studying the tactical display. The entire Council fleet is moving toward us. Good, Gina replied. Let them come to us. We have turned the entire solar system into a fortress. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid has been weaponized. They think they are bringing the fight to us. But they are walking into a trap. The Council Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system 3 weeks later. They came in formation, ready for anything. Their sensors swept the area, looking for hidden ships, weapons, ambush points. They found them. Hundreds of defensive platforms orbited in the outer system. Minefields stretched across probable approach vectors. The human fleet waited near Neptune, clearly visible and ready to fight. Veloth smiled. The humans were not hiding this time. They were going to fight directly. That was a mistake. Numbers always won in direct combat, and the Council had the numbers. Attack, he ordered. All ships advance. Destroy everything. The Armada moved forward. 2,000 ships against a few hundred human vessels. The outcome should have been certain. But the humans had spent 150 years preparing for exactly this fight. The first mines detonated. Council ships died by the dozens. But the Armada kept coming. There were too many of them to stop with static defenses. They pushed through the minefields, taking losses but advancing steadily. Then the defensive platforms opened fire. Not with energy weapons, the Council had shields for those. Instead, they fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds, kinetic kill vehicles, depleted uranium rods, even chunks of rock accelerated to fractional light speed. The Council shields crumpled under the impacts. More ships died, but still the Armada advanced. Veloth had expected losses. He had expected tricks. He had brought enough ships to absorb it all and still win. The human fleet engaged at Neptune. Captain Minji led the Retribution into the heart of the Council formation. Her ship was small compared to the Council battleships, but it was fast and deadly. She targeted command vessels using precision strikes to disrupt coordination. Other human ships used different tactics. Some deployed clouds of metal chaff that confused Council sensors. Others used electronic warfare to jam communications. Still others simply rammed Council ships, their pilots ejecting at the last moment while their unmanned vessels smashed into enemy hulls. The battle was chaos. Ships burned. Weapons fired. People died. The Council had never fought an enemy like this. Humans did not follow standard tactics. They did not form orderly battle lines. They swarmed like insects, attacking weak points, retreating before they could be cornered, then attacking again from a different angle. But the Council had numbers. For every human ship destroyed, 10 more Council vessels took its place. Slowly, inevitably, the human fleet was being pushed back toward the inner system. Veloth watched the battle with satisfaction. The humans fought well, but it did not matter. His fleet was winning. In a few more hours, the human resistance would be broken. Then Captain Minji did something insane. She pointed the Retribution directly at Veloth's flagship and accelerated. Her ship was damaged, leaking atmosphere, but still functional. The Council battleship's weapons locked onto her immediately. "She is going to ram us," Veloth's tactical officer reported. "Destroy her." The flagship's main cannon fired. The beam should have vaporized the Retribution. But at the last second, Minji's ship jumped. A micro-jump just a few thousand kilometers. She appeared directly above the flagship, too close for the big guns to target. Boarding pods launched from the Retribution. They smashed through the flagship's hull and human soldiers poured out. The Council crew had never trained for boarding actions. Humans had trained for nothing else. Minji led her team through the corridors. They fought in close quarters, using tactics learned from centuries of human warfare. Hand-to-hand combat, room clearing, brutal, efficient violence. The Council soldiers, trained to fight from a distance, could not match them. In 20 minutes, Minji's team reached the bridge. They breached the doors. Veloth stood there, surrounded by his command staff, all of them armed with plasma pistols. "You will die here," Veloth said. "Maybe," Minji replied. "But you are coming with us." Her team moved with perfect coordination. Flashbangs, smoke grenades, suppressing fire. In seconds, the bridge was secured. Veloth was on his knees, hands bound behind his back. Minji transmitted on all channels. "The High Arbiter is captured. All Council ships cease fire immediately or he dies." The Council fleet faltered. Some ships continued fighting. Others stopped, unwilling to risk their leader's life. The coordination that had driven the Armada forward began to break apart. Commander Deho seized the moment. He broadcast Veloth's image across the galaxy, the High Arbiter, kneeling before human soldiers. The leader of the Council defeated. The message went everywhere. Every Council world saw it. Every subjugated species saw it. The mighty Council brought low by humans. Council ships began to retreat. Some jumped away immediately. Others tried to regroup. But without leadership, without coordination, they were just individual vessels surrounded by enemy territory. The Grand Armada fractured and scattered. Of the 2,000 ships that had entered the solar system, fewer than 800 escaped. The rest were destroyed, captured, or too damaged to leave. The Council had lost more than half its fleet in a single battle. On Earth, the celebration was even larger than before. Humanity had won, not just a battle but a war. The Council would not be sending another fleet. They could not. Their military was broken, but in the command center, Deho did not celebrate. He looked at the casualty reports. Millions of dead on both sides, hundreds of destroyed ships. The cost of freedom had been terrible. Admiral Gina stood beside him. "We won," she said quietly. "Yes," Deho replied. "But what happens next? The Council is defeated. Their authority is gone. And we just showed the entire galaxy that Earth has the most powerful military in known space. Other species will either fear us or try to destroy us. We fought to be free. Now we have to decide what to do with that freedom. Gina had no answer. The war was over, but the real challenges were just beginning. Humanity was unchained. The question was, what would they become? The colony ship Horizon's Gate left Earth orbit 6 months after the Great Battle. It carried 10,000 people, engineers, farmers, scientists, families. Their destination was Proxima Centauri, the closest star system beyond Sol. For 150 years, humans had dreamed of this moment. Now it was finally happening. Ambassador Hyun watched the ship depart from his office window. He should have felt happy. Humanity was finally free to expand, to grow, to become what they were meant to be. But instead, he felt worried. "We are moving too fast," he said to Commander Daeho. 3 colony expeditions in 6 months, military bases being established in 4 systems, trade agreements with species that were our enemies last year. "We need to slow down." Daeho stood by the window, hands behind his back. "We cannot slow down. The galaxy has seen our strength. If we show weakness now, someone else will fill the power vacuum left by the Council. We must establish ourselves while we have the advantage." "And if we become the new Council?" Hyun asked. "If we become the oppressors instead of the oppressed?" "That will not happen," Daeho said firmly. "We remember what it was like to be powerless. We will be better." Hyun was not convinced. Power changed people. He had seen it before. The Council had probably started with good intentions too. But over time, they had become arrogant, cruel, and blind to their own faults. Across the galaxy, other species watched humanity's expansion with mixed feelings. Some were grateful. The Council had oppressed them for centuries. Now they were free to make their own choices. They reached out to Earth seeking trade agreements, defensive pacts, and technology exchanges. Others were afraid. Humanity had destroyed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. What was to stop them from conquering everyone else? Some species began building up their own militaries, preparing for the day when human expansion reached their borders. Captain Minji did not concern herself with politics. She was a soldier. Her job was to protect human interests and maintain peace. She commanded a small fleet now, patrolling the space between Earth and the new colonies. One day, a distress signal came from a mining station in the Tau Ceti system. The station belonged to the Kelhari, a species that had recently signed a mutual defense treaty with Earth. They were under attack by pirates, remnants of the Council military, who had turned to raiding after their government collapsed. Minji's fleet arrived within hours. The pirates had 12 ships heavily armed. They were in the process of boarding the Kelhari station, killing anyone who resisted. "Attention pirate vessels," Minji broadcast. "This station is under the protection of the Terran Defense Coalition. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." The pirate commander laughed. "Humans protecting the Kelhari? The Kelhari are weak. They exist only to serve. And you humans are just the new Council. Give us a few years and we will be raiding your stations too. You have 5 minutes to withdraw," Minji said calmly. After that we opened fire. The pirates did not withdraw. They turned their weapons on Minji's fleet instead. It was a mistake. The battle lasted 3 minutes. 12 pirate ships against 6 human vessels. It was not even close. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their weapons targeting vital systems. They disabled the pirate vessels without destroying them, leaving the crews alive but helpless. Then Minji sent boarding teams to rescue the Kelhari workers still trapped on the station. Her soldiers moved through the corridors, eliminating pirates and securing civilians. By the time the operation ended, every Kelhari worker was safe. The Kelhari station commander contacted Minji personally. "You saved us. We owe you our lives." "No debt," Minji replied. "We signed a treaty. We protect our allies. That is what it means." News of the rescue spread quickly. Other species saw that Earth actually kept its promises. When humans said they would protect their allies, they meant it. More species approached Earth, asking to join what was now being called the Terran Coalition. Admiral Gina found herself managing not just a defense fleet, but a complex network of alliances. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now working together under Earth's protection. It was unprecedented, but not everyone was happy with the new order. On a human colony world called New Dublin, the governor made a controversial decision. An indigenous species lived on the planet, primitive but intelligent. The governor wanted them moved to a reservation so that the colony could expand into resource-rich lands. When news reached Earth, Ambassador Hyon was furious. He brought the issue to the Coalition Council. This is exactly what I warned about. We are becoming oppressors. We are doing to others what the Council did to us. Commander Deho disagreed. The governor has the right to manage his colony as he sees fit. We cannot micromanage every decision made across dozens of worlds, so we do nothing? Hyon demanded. We let our people become the monsters we fought against? The argument grew heated. Other coalition members took sides. Some argued that each world should govern itself without interference. Others said that the coalition needed to enforce ethical standards. The debate went on for weeks and no clear answer emerged. Engineer Tajin spent his time doing what he did best, building things. After the war, he had turned his attention from weapons to tools. Faster ships, better communication systems, medical technology. He believed that humanity's future would be built, not through military might, but through innovation. One day, while reviewing data from captured Council archives, Tajin made a disturbing discovery. The Council had files on humanity dating back centuries. They had been watching Earth since before first contact. And what he read made his blood run cold. He brought the files to Commander Deho immediately. You need to see this. Deho read through the documents. They were psychological assessments, biological studies, and historical analyses of human warfare. The Council had studied every conflict humans had ever fought. They had identified patterns. When faced with existential threats, humans evolve, one report stated. They adapt faster than any other known species. They create new technologies. They develop new tactics. They become more dangerous. This is not a conscious choice. It is built into their biology. Fear and pressure trigger innovation at an accelerated rate. Another document detailed the Council's strategy. Keep humans contained. Limit their exposure to threats. If they remain comfortable and unchallenged, they will remain manageable. But if they are pushed, if they are threatened, they will become something we cannot control. Deho looked up from the files. They were not afraid of what we were. They were afraid of what we could become. Tajin nodded slowly, and by trying to contain us, they created exactly the situation that would force us to evolve. They made us more dangerous by treating us as dangerous. The revelation was sobering. The war had not been about territory or resources. It had been about fear. The Council had been terrified of human potential. And in trying to prevent that potential from being realized, they had guaranteed it would be. Deho called an emergency meeting of the coalition leadership. Hyon, Gina, Minji, and Tajin gathered in the command center. We need to talk about what kind of civilization we want to build, Deho said. The Council feared us because they thought we were unstoppable. But the truth is, we are just people. We make mistakes. We can be cruel. We can be selfish. The question is, will we choose to be better? Hyon spoke first. We must establish clear principles. Rights for all species, protection for the weak, justice and equality. If we do not define ourselves now, others will define us later. Admiral Gina agreed. But principles without power mean nothing. We must remain strong, not to conquer, but to defend. The galaxy is full of threats. If we become weak, someone else will become strong. Minji added her perspective. We need to remember why we fought. We fought because the Council denied us freedom. We fought because they killed our people. We cannot become them. But we also cannot let what we built be destroyed by being too idealistic. Tajin was the last to speak. I build things, and I know that what you build depends on your foundation. If we build our civilization on fear and military might, that is what we will become. But if we build on innovation, cooperation, and mutual respect, we can create something better than the Council ever was. The discussion went late into the night. They argued. They debated. They sometimes shouted. But in the end, they agreed on something important. Humanity would not be defined by its weapons. It would be defined by its choices. They drafted the Coalition Charter. It established rights for all member species. It created councils where everyone had a voice. It set limits on military action and established procedures for resolving disputes. It was not perfect, but it was a start. Humanity was unchained. Now they were choosing what to do with that freedom. The warning came without ceremony. A simple transmission from the outer sectors, where human exploration vessels had been mapping uncharted space. 3 colonies had gone silent. Not destroyed, just silent. Every communication stopped at exactly the same moment across 3 different star systems, separated by dozens of light years. Admiral Gina sent scout ships immediately. What they found was terrifying. The colonies still existed. The buildings stood intact, but every living being was gone. Millions of people and aliens simply vanished. No signs of battle, no bodies, no indication of what had happened. Within a week, 2 more colonies went silent. Then 4 more. The pattern was clear. Something was moving through space, eliminating all biological life it encountered. The scouts finally got visual confirmation. Massive geometric ships unlike anything in the known databases. They moved in perfect formation, methodical and unstoppable. Engineer Tajan analyzed the scant data the scouts had collected. These ships do not use conventional weapons. They emit some kind of energy field that disrupts biological processes. Everything organic simply stops functioning. And they are heading toward more populated systems. How long until they reach Coalition space? Commander Deho asked. 3 months, Tajan replied. Maybe less. The Coalition Council held an emergency session. Representatives from 42 species gathered, all of them terrified. This threat was unlike anything they had faced before. The Council military was still broken from the war with humanity. Individual species had their own defense forces, but nothing that could stand against this enemy. Ambassador Hyon stood before the assembly. We face an enemy that does not negotiate. It does not want territory or resources. It simply destroys all biological life. If we do not stop it, every species in this galaxy will die. Then a message arrived from an unexpected source. High Arbiter Veloth, still imprisoned on Earth, requested to speak with Commander Deho. The request was unusual enough that Deho agreed. Veloth sat in his cell, looking older than before. The war had broken his pride, but it had not destroyed his knowledge. I know what you face, he said. We call it the Silence. It awakens every few million years, cleanses the galaxy of biological life, then returns to dormancy. The Council has records of the last awakening. We barely survived. Deho studied the former Council leader. Why are you telling me this? Because I am a fool, not a monster, Veloth replied. I wanted to preserve Council authority. I made terrible choices, but I do not want to see every species in the galaxy exterminated. The Council has weapons designed specifically to fight the Silence. Ancient technology that has been kept in secure vaults for thousands of years. I can give you access. In exchange for what? Deho asked. Nothing, Veloth said quietly. There is no Council anymore. There is no authority to bargain for. I am giving you this information because it is the right thing to do, something I should have understood years ago. Deho brought the information to the Coalition leadership. The debate was fierce. Many wanted to ignore Veloth's offer. He had killed millions of humans. He had oppressed dozens of species. Why should anyone trust him now? But Ambassador Hyon argued for accepting the help. This is not about Veloth. This is not about the Council. This is about survival. If we let our hatred blind us, everyone dies. We must be better than that. After hours of discussion, the decision was made. They would use the Council's ancient weapons, but the operation would be led by humans, working with representatives from every Coalition species. This would not be a Council victory or a human victory. It would be a victory for all life. Engineer Tajan worked day and night to understand the ancient technology. The weapons were powerful but difficult to use. They required massive amounts of energy and precise coordination. Worse, they had been designed for Council ships, which were different from human vessels. Tajan solved the problem the way humans always did, through improvisation. He modified the weapons to work with human power systems. He made them smaller and more efficient. He turned ancient technology into something new. Admiral Gina assembled a fleet unlike any seen before. Human warships flew alongside former Council vessels. Kelhari cruisers coordinated with ships from a dozen other species. It was the largest combined force ever created, brought together by necessity. Captain Minji commanded the Retribution, now upgraded with the new weapons. Her crew included humans, Kelhari, and even 3 former Council officers who had volunteered. They trained together, learning to work as one unit. The fleet met the Silence at the edge of Coalition space. Hundreds of geometric ships waited there, motionless and patient. They had been moving through the galaxy for millions of years. They had eliminated countless civilizations. This would be just another extermination. But they had never fought humanity before. The battle began with the Silence advancing. Their energy fields activated, reaching out to disrupt the biological life on the Coalition ships. But Taijin had prepared for this. Every ship had shielding that disrupted the Silence's weapons. It was not perfect, but it bought them time. The Coalition fleet attacked. The ancient weapons fired, sending pulses of energy that actually damaged the Silence ships. For the first time in millions of years, the Silence faced an enemy that could hurt them. But the Silence adapted. They changed their formations. They modified their weapons. They learned. Admiral Gina watched the battle unfold and realized something important. The Silence was a machine intelligence. It was powerful and ancient, but it followed patterns. It could learn, but it learned slowly. Humans did not follow patterns. Humans were chaos. Humans were unpredictable. All ships, Gina broadcast. Abandon standard tactics. Attack independently. Do not coordinate. I repeat, do not coordinate. Confusion is our weapon. The fleet broke apart. Every ship began fighting on its own, using whatever tactics its captain thought best. Some ships rammed the enemy. Others used mines. Still others flew impossible evasion patterns while firing at random intervals. There was no coordination, no plan, no predictability. The Silence could not adapt. Its intelligence was designed to analyze patterns and counter them. But there were no patterns to analyze. Every ship acted differently. Every attack came from an unexpected angle. The machine intelligence struggled to process the chaos. Captain Minji led a dozen ships deep into the Silence formation. She had studied the sensor data and found something, a central processing node. It coordinated all the Silence ships. Destroy it and the entire fleet would be disrupted. Her strike force fought through waves of defenders. Ships died on both sides. The cost was terrible. But they reached the node. Minji armed every weapon the Retribution had and fired point blank into the structure. The node exploded. The Silence fleet went dark. Without coordination, the geometric ships drifted aimlessly. Some tried to continue fighting, but they were isolated and easily destroyed. Others simply shut down. The Coalition fleet had won. The Silence was not destroyed. Some of its ships escaped into deep space. But it was defeated. It would be thousands of years before it could rebuild and threaten the galaxy again. The cost had been enormous. 30% of the Coalition fleet was destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers from dozens of species had died. But they had died together, fighting for all life. In the aftermath, something remarkable happened. The species that had fought together did not go back to their old rivalries. They had bled together. They had trusted each other with their lives. That created bonds stronger than any treaty. The Coalition Council met to discuss what came next. For the first time, representatives from every species spoke as equals. Former council members sat beside species they had once oppressed, and humans sat among them, not as conquerors but as partners. Ambassador Hyon addressed the assembly. We have proven something important. When we work together, when we put aside our hatred and fear, we can accomplish the impossible. We defeated the Council's tyranny. We survived the Silence. Now we must build something worthy of that sacrifice. The Coalition was reformed, not as the Council had been, centralized and authoritarian, but as a true alliance of equals. Every species had representation. Every voice mattered. Military forces would be shared, but no single species would control them. Admiral Gina was appointed Supreme Commander, but she would answer to a council of representatives from all member species. Commander Diho retired. He had spent his entire life preparing for war and fighting in it. Now with peace secured, he wanted nothing more than to rest. Before he left, he had one final conversation with Hyun. You were right, Diho said. I was so focused on making humanity strong that I almost forgot why strength matters. It is not enough to be powerful. We must also be good, Hyun smiled. And you were right, too. Principles without power are just words. We needed both. The strength to fight and the wisdom to know when fighting was necessary. Captain Minji stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching a mixed crew work together. Humans, Kelhari, and half a dozen other species operated the ship in perfect harmony. A young officer approached her, a Kelhari who had joined her crew after the battle. Captain, the officer said, I wanted to thank you. My people were under council rule for 300 years. We thought freedom was impossible. Then humanity showed us it was not. You fought for yourselves, but in doing so, you freed all of us.